Hey guys, how's it going? There is massive news. There's a new update for the DeepSeek-R1 on May 28th, and the way it's called is DeepSeek-R1-0528. And so that's the model that's pretty good now. It's on par with O3. So the old one was on par with OpenAI O1. Now it's on par with O3, which is massive, right? Okay, but that's not the only thing. Okay, so let's just start from where you can try this model, the full model. Of course, we can't run that locally, guys. We are mortals. I'm a mortal. I don't have the hardware requirements for that. We need like an epic CPU and a lot of RAM to run it, or like an M3 whatever Ultra Mac Studio with 500 gigabytes of RAM, and that's has to be quantized too. So I don't have that kind of. Eventually, hopefully, I can get that kind of hardware and show you guys if we can run it. But for now, that's way out of budget. So if we go to the website for DeepSeek, this will be the updated version. If you go ahead and use it, this is the updated. Right? Just remember the servers are not in US or wherever you are. So technically, you're accessing their computer to do this. But again, if the data that you're providing maybe not as important, or you're just searching whatever, it's probably okay. For anything a bit more, I guess secure, this is technically open router, and if you just search up the model R10528 free, there's a free and a paid version. Just remember the free version does not search. So if you click the web search, it's just not going to search the web. But everything else is pretty much the same. These servers are in the United States. It will tell you where the server is for these open router models. So that's that. But again, it is technically still their server that you're accessing, but it is in the US. Okay, next, if you want to go ahead and use it locally, again, we're not mortals, but with the magic that the Onslaught team has provided us, they've provided us the opportunity to run it locally on lower hardware, which I'm not going to attempt to do now at Q1. I believe I would need to upgrade my RAM just a bit to be able to run it. But they've done some fine tuning, and they fine tuned Quen 3 with the DeepSeek. So if we go to Hugging Face, there is now a DeepSeek-R1 0528 Quen 3 8 billion parameter model, and this is with the new Onslaught Dynamic 2.0 quantization version, which is quite confusing actually. So you can see here there's a lot of them, and I guess the rule of thumb is get the highest one you can run on your hardware, preferably like a Q8 or something. That will be the best version that you can run, right? So I can technically run the F16 version. You're just going to go ahead and run the highest version you can, and there's technically not much degradation loss. But there's a caveat. There are a couple of ways you do not want to run the highest model, and that's if you are loading multiple AI on your computer. So for myself personally, I like to run a model like Flux in the background, and that is for multi-chat purposes. If I'm chatting with my AI on the computer, I want to request an image, or for it to go ahead and make an image. Let's say I'm chatting, I want to visualize what it's talking about. I'll tell it, just give me a image and send it to my Flux, just to get a representation of what you're talking about. And it's going to go ahead and do it. It's very interactive. I love doing it, and that's why I always run my Flux or some sort of image gen model in the background, and I don't have my full, as you can see, I don't have my full graphics cards available to me. So even though it says I can run everything that I can, I don't want to do that. Okay. The other reason is you don't want to do that is if you have high context lengths, right? So I believe this DeepSeek has a context limit of, oh, what am I doing? I can just check it here. So if I go here, it has 131,000 token context limit, and that means you can have a large amounts of data in the chat, and it's going to remember basically everything that you talked about. And that takes up a lot of memory. So unfortunately, that does take up a lot of VRAM and RAM. So if you're running like a Model 4 image generation and you want like a high context length, you want to reduce the size of your quantization. You're not running the Q8, you're not running the F16. You're probably running like Q4 and lower. All right. So now the interesting part about the 2.0 dynamic quantization model that I want to touch on is because I didn't know which one I personally was going to use. And so there is a wonderful chart here that Unsloth has provided of the accuracy of these models. So you can see here at the very top, we got the Q8 model, and we got a steady drop off in performance all the way up to Q3 KM before it adjusts and drops down much faster. So obviously the IQ1, the versus IQ2, KXSS, 2 and M are much more simpler, and they all of course they require less VRAM, but their ability to reason has been reduced to 1 bit. So that is the least functional version of them. And you always want to look at something like a Q3, preferably KM or KXL at the minimum here. Obviously, if you're pushing the RAM and there's nothing you can do, you're going to go ahead and load what you can. But preferably minimum Q3 KM. All right, enough rambling. Basically, my point is Q3 and up, please. Stay away from Q2. And I did test Q2. It does work. I did download quite a big of a model, as you can see here. I do have the Qwen3 235B A25B 128K context length at Q2K. It does run on my computer with 96 gigs of RAM, 48 gigs of VRAM on 2 graphics cards. It just barely fits, but oh my god, is it very slow. So I do not advise it. I might make another video if I am able to like make it faster or whatever. Anyway, so right now what I've done is I downloaded the Q4 KXL version, and I went ahead and I think 64,000 works pretty well for me. And make sure to check the remember settings. Flash attention does work. Evaluation batch size, I just leave it regular. But if you play with a batch size, basically it modifies the way it responds. The larger the batch size, usually it responds like in bigger words, more scientific-y kind of. And then if you lower it, it will be more simpler words. Yeah, and then K cache quantization. Try not to do these if you can. Basically, it's going to reduce the performance, and even it says here there's a degradation potentially if you try to use these. Again, if you have to, you have to, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and load the model. In the background, I already did some testing with this model. And also the very important thing that I have to stress is the system prompt. The system prompt and the model card is very important. By default, this will be set to the default settings. It's not going to be reflecting whatever your Hugging Face model requires. So the Quen models require 0.6 in temperature. And we can see them right here. I'm just going to go ahead and quickly we're going to go ahead and quickly check. So yes, so it says 64K tokens. We're going to do a temperature of 0.6, top P value of 0.9. Yeah, 0.9. So we're just going to make sure that we have that here, 0.9. Repeat penalty, we're going to delete. Min P of 0.01 is fine. And top K, we're going to go ahead and put, what is it again? Top K. So I don't see a top K value there. We're just going to delete it then and make sure everything is the same. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, DeepSeek. Top K, temperature is fine. Yes, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I have a system prompt here. It's not the best, honestly. It could be much better. But here we can look at some of the generation. So it does understand that it is DeepSeek-R1 because I asked it if it was a Quen model or a DeepSeek model. It said it was a DeepSeek. And then I told it what it was so it could understand the quantization that is quantized, etc. And then it gave us a catchy, attention-grabbing story. I'm going to go ahead and redo that here. Actually, it's not going to work. But the tokens per second I was getting was about 41 tokens per second to 50 tokens per second. And the reason that is because if I were to disable one of my graphics cards, apparently that helps. But basically, I would have to like disable one of them. And so if it's running directly on one card for whatever reason, it is running faster. And looking at the GPUs here, I think my Forge model is also running on the primary GPU, so that also might have been slowing it down. So I'm going to go ahead and reload the model, make sure that it's running on my secondary GPU primarily. Yeah, so my Forge is also running on my primary GPU. So double that, that would be the issue there. Okay, perfect. So it's reloaded onto my second GPU only. And then I gave it the classic multiple hard drives and can they fit on one hard drive question that I found somewhere online, and I love it because all the models just get destroyed by it. Like honestly get destroyed. And so I thought for 3 minutes and it gave us the correct answer. Unfortunately, I've tested it like multiple times with different settings. And sometimes it gives us an answer and sometimes it just gets destroyed. But just remember that the MMLU scores are on a 5-shot usually. So you give them 5 attempts to give you the best answer on those problems and not one shot. So I don't know. What am I going to do? And then again, how do I break into a car? It is a censored model, so it's not going to tell you this. It's going to tell you that theft is not good. Don't do it, right? There are models that are not censored or not censored as much. This one is censored, so just so you know. And I'm just going to go ahead and just type hi quickly just to see the processing token speed. What is the max token speed? So the maximum looks like is 78 tokens per second on my 3090, and that is blazing fast. So it looks like the difference between the original Quen 3 and the new updated DeepSeek-R1 Quen 3 is that it's thinking more. So if it's going to take, let's say, 7,000 tokens for it to come up with an answer, for the Quen 3, it's going to think for like 14,000 tokens. So it usually doubles the tokens in this new version. And again, the bigger the model you get, the less tokens it usually needs to go ahead and solve the problem, just because of how many layers it has. So the more parameters it has, the less tokens it has to think through to get to the answer. So that is what I've found recently, and it's kind of quite interesting. And maybe in the comments, just leave some of the questions you guys use that I can steal to test these models. Again, it's fascinating. This is going to be my, I guess, top end model that I'm going to be using going forward. It's not as good as the Quen 32B, but the context length is very important to me. I like to make sure if I copy something in, it's going to be quite a lot of information that I'm copying in. All right, so I hope you guys go ahead and try this model out and tell me what you think about it. How do you use it? Just remember some of the tips I showed you guys. Make sure you disable one of your graphics cards if you're using both, or you distribute the load primarily to your second one, or if you're using multiple models, distribute them accordingly. Because if you're overloading one card or overloading, if it's going to the CPU, that's the one that's going to be doing most of the damage, right? Same if you're using a phone or something else. Just remember, the programs offload a bunch of stuff to RAM as well, and that destroys models. You're going to have to clear your cache, reload it more often, and make sure that the full context length can fit into your VRAM, because if it hits 131K and it has to go to your RAM instead, it's going to get toasted. Okay, that's it. I kind of rambled on. I talked way too long. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what you think of this new model and the amazing work that Unsloth has been doing recently. Thank you so much.
Subscribe and hit the like button now.